things are not working. And again, I also thought he did this kind of challenges to these people to make sure that he's also seen he's around. And he's been there for, actually before Uhuru, before Ruto.
Yes.
And from Moi's tenure, he has been all there. So I think this character of him trying to be so courageous and so vigorous, and again, it's like he was so fightful for the rest of... these people feel that they are not strong enough to defend themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the nation has lost, and obviously it will take a long time to adjust to post-Raila era, and to adjust to, you know, if there's any national news or headlines, he won't be part of the conversation, at least not in the extent to which he was when he was alive. But at the same time, it is for Kenyans to really appreciate. And, you know, we've got this culture of appreciating leaders after they've left. And it's when you realize, oh, you know, so-and-so was so good, this is what he did, this is what he contributed. You need to give people their flowers when they're alive.
Before they die.
And I hope that is a culture that Kenyans will be able to adapt as we go back.
Yes, and again, you've mentioned of us trying to celebrate someone. It is called posthumously. Someone may say we've mentioned it, we pronounce it off. It's posthumously, not humorously.
Right, so let's take a look at what is making headlines this morning, where the late former Prime Minister, Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, has been posthumously awarded the Chief of the Order of the Golden Heart, CGH, the highest national honor in Kenya.
President William Ruto conferred the prestigious award on Monday, October 20th, 2025, during the Mashujaa Day celebrations held at Ithogo Stadium in Kitui County.
According to a Gazette notice dated the same day, the honor was bestowed upon Odinga in recognition of his exemplified courage, endurance, dedication, and unwavering commitment to democracy, good governance, Pan-Africanism, and faithful service to humanity.
And in his Mashujaa Day address, President Ruto paid long tribute to the late ODM leader, describing him as a towering patriot and a hero for the ages.
He commended Odinga for his lifelong dedication to nation building, stating that his name will forever be inscribed among Kenya's foremost heroes under the public seal of the Republic.
On this Mashujaa Day, in recognition of his extraordinary contribution and enduring legacy, the government and the people of Kenya inscribe Raila Odinga's name among the foremost of our heroes under the public seal of the Republic of Kenya. On behalf of a grateful nation and through the authority vested in me as president, I have today posthumously conferred upon the Right Honorable Raila Odinga the highest honor of the Republic, the Chief of the Order of the Golden Heart of Kenya. If Kenya is to attain first world status within our lifetime, as it must, we should set for ourselves daring, audacious goals and pursue them with unwavering focus. It is in this very conviction, ladies and gentlemen, that has guided my engagements with leaders and stakeholders from across the political divide. I have consulted with my former boss, the fourth President of Kenya, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. I have held discussions with majority of members of parliament, and they are here. I have consulted with many governors and grassroots leaders from every corner of the nation. And I will continue to engage because Kenya's progress must never be a partisan pursuit. It is a national inclusive mission. Through these deliberations, I have arrived at a clear conclusion that although we have made commendable progress in stabilizing the nation over the last 3 years, the time has come to take the country to the next level.
Former President Uhuru Kenyatta on Mashujaa Day paid a solemn visit to the gravesite of the late former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga at Kang'oka, Jaramogi in Bondo, Siaya County.
Uhuru was accompanied by Siaya Senator Dr. Oburu Oginga, the elder brother of the late Raila.
The two leaders walked quietly to the gravesite where they stood in silence for several minutes, their heads bowed in deep reflection and in prayer.
Witnesses described the former president as calm and visibly sorrowful, a stark contrast to his usual cheerful and animated demeanor.
His composure and silence spoke volumes about the depth of his emotions and the strong bond he shared with the late opposition leader.
After a short prayer led by Senator Oburu, the two leaders returned to the family home without addressing the media.
Uhuru made no public statement, allowing his quiet presence to convey his respect and grief. I mean, this takes me back to the speech the former president made during the state funeral, you know, celebrating moments, termed him as his friend. And, you know, one can only help but think that it gets to an age where truly your friends start, unfortunately, passing away. And the reality really hits that, you know, you've grown to that particular age. And this is somebody they shared, what did he say, Kauji?
Kauji na Kachai.
I mean, it is quite the picture right there from the former president.
Yeah, and when you say your friends starting to maybe leave you when it comes to issues of death, I think there is a loss that you have to feel when your friends are just leaving you, because we've just noted a lot of wisdom from departed Prime Minister Raila Odinga, and it was impacting so much. It was it's like people used to sieve on a lot of wisdom from him. So seeing such a hero go, it leaves a lot of loss for many people. And I remember some people mentioning of political orphans, and I'm very sure we're seeing them right now. So for such a friend, we also shared this with you this morning, that we still don't think, or even we don't still believe that Raila is normal, because he's been of paramount vitality and importance to this country, but now he's not there. So,
and I mean, most of us were born when we found him, and so all our lives we've always known this opposition leader,
and he's always around. You found him here. And now it's normal.
Wow. Now, counties across Kenya marked this year's Mashujaa Day with solemn tribute to the late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, whose legacy dominated national celebrations.
And flags were flown at half-mast in honor of Raila, as leaders and citizens alike reflected on his lifelong contribution to democracy, freedom, and justice.
The commemorations held in different counties also featured political reflections on the future of the ODM party, with several governors reaffirming the party's commitment to unity and continuity of Raila's vision.
ODM governors used the occasion to emphasize their resolve to strengthen the party and prepare for the formation of the next government, pledging to uphold the values and principles championed by Raila Odinga throughout his political life.
You are a member of ODM. How I wish, when you're going to sit down, that you come back to your former party, ODM. If you came back to ODM, definitely we'll have you as our front man.
Kifo cha Raila Amolo Odinga kimeunganisha Wakenya wote. Kifo cha Raila Amolo Odinga kimetuonyesha kwamba ukiwa kiongozi wa kitaifa, uwe kiongozi ambayo unapinga mambo ya ukabila.
Iko watu wametudharau nchi. Wanajua sisi kwanza hatupigi kura, ya pili haturejesti. Na mimi najua hapa pahali tuko, pahali Unyalego kwamba ametuacha. Mimi najua tutakuwa na sauti kamili.
Sasa wengine wanaanza kudanganya jana kwa matanga. Ati Raila aliwaambia akikufa atuwabaki kwa serikali ya broad base. Aliwaambia wapi? You are lying. Maana Raila hakuwa anajua anakufa. Hii gift ilipata tu kwa government, aliwaambia serikali goodbye of broad base government. Lying was not part of the ideals of Raila. Raila was a man who was committed to the truth. Say the truth and face the consequences. That back of broad-based government, do that by choice because you believe it's good. Lakini mseme kwamba Raila alisema alikwambia wewe watu ama uliota. Watu waache uongo bwana. Uko na freedom ya kukaa kwa serikali. But don't make it kwamba sasa iko ni obligation kwamba Raila alisema baki kwa serikali. Mbona Raila juzi wameka into law sheria ambayo inakuja kukandamiza vijana wetu. Hatuwezi andika kitu kwa mtandao. Mimi natukanwa kila siku kwa mitandao, nimekufa. The freedom of speech, the freedom of expression is in our constitution. Tuko na wabunge wanda bungeni wanapitia sheria ambayo za draconian laws. Sasa wewe andika kitu unatetemeka, lazima utafute jina ya uongo weke pale ndio zenu unafanya makosa. Why can we allow our people to express themselves freely? If we love Raila, the freedom fighter, the man who was dedicated the welfare of our people, we cannot speak from both sides of our mouths. We cannot. Huwezi kusifu Raila ni mzuri na ile madili alikuwa anasimamia mnaanza kuikandamiza hata kabla hajazikwa. Itakuwaje?
Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye has extended his country's heartfelt condolences to the people of Kenya following the passing of the late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga speaking during the Mashujaa Day celebrations held at Ithokwe Stadium in Kitui County on October 20th. President Diomaye described Raila as a great leader and a pillar of African democracy whose life and legacy continue to inspire the continent.
He expressed deep sympathy to President William Ruto, the Odinga family, and the people of Kenya.
Raila Odinga passed away on October 15, 2025 in India, where he had gone to seek treatment.
He was laid to rest on Sunday, October 19th at his Nyamira village home in Bondo, Siaya County.
Before I begin, I would like first to take this opportunity to renew the heartfelt condolences of the people of Senegal to the brotherly people of Kenya on the passing of Mr. Raila Odinga, a former Prime Minister and a great leader in the political history of Kenya. I pay tribute to the memory of the illustrious departed and express my deep compassion to President Ruto, to his family, and to the people of Kenya. May his soul rest in peace. I would like to thank President Ruto for the warm welcome and all the attention we accorded to me and my delegation since our arrival in this brotherly country, home to the wonders of Masai Mara and Kilimanjaro. I am here in the invitation of my brother, President William Ruto, as a guest of honor on this day celebrating Kenyan heroes. I express my gratitude to him for this gesture that shows the excellent quality of relations between our two countries. I'm also here because I'm deeply committed to the duty of remembrance. Our heroes deserve all honors. They deserve our respect. They deserve our admiration. The celebration of Kenyan heroes who risked their lives fighting for the independence of their country is a great tribute that commands respect and pride. The members of Mau Mau National Liberation Movement suffered fierce repression at the hands of those whose sole aim was to perpetuate the colonial order. Jomo Kenyatta, Achieng Oneko, Bildad Kagia, Fred Kubai, Kangu Kurungba, Paul Kay, and their companions suffered the worst horrors of the colonial power, leading to the death of thousands of Kenyans, countless arrests, torture, and massive internment.
At the same time, Mozambique's Prime Minister Maria Benvinda Levi has described the late Odinga Raila as a true patriot and a champion of democracy, whose passing is a great loss not only to Kenya but to the entire African continent.
Speaking during the Mashujaa Day celebrations held at Ithooko Stadium in Kitui County, Prime Minister Levi paid glowing tribute to Raila, praising his lifelong dedication to the fight for democracy, social justice, and African unity.
She noted that Raila was widely respected across Africa for his courage to speak truth to power, his contribution to strengthening democratic institutions, and his unwavering vision of a free, united, and prosperous continent.
We extend our deepest condolences and heartfelt sympathy to the people and government of Kenya and to the bereaved family on the passing of the late Right Honorable Raila Odinga.
Com seu desaparecimento físico,
his passing, Kenya and indeed all African nations have lost a true nationalist whose voice will continue to resonate in the struggle for a more just and democratic society.
Excelências, as festividades e comemorações do Dia do Herói.
Excellencies, the festivities and commemorations of this Mashujaa Day, which we mark here today, are not only a time of remembrance and tribute, but also a moment of introspection, reflection for a nation, and time to honor the deeds of its finest sons and daughters who fought, died, and sacrificed for the noble cause of liberation, nation building, preservation, and consolidation.
All right, allow us to take a quick break right here on Morning Live. When we come back, the newspaper review.
Thank you for watching Morning Live. My name is Jeff.
You've seen them on TV.
Nakushukuru Mungu wangu kwa kunifikisha hapa.
But do you know their stories? Come with me.
If people look at me,
yes,
even before they hear me, will they see Jesus?
Wezi ambia watu mimi am a worshiper, na wakati you are worshiping people can't encounter God.
Ukisoma hiyo inabidi sana katika ile maisha yako hata kama kwamba hauimbi.
Join me, Teddy Psalmist Mwana wa Ngolo Mosio, every Tuesday and Thursday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. only on EBN TV.
Okay, good morning. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Morning Live. We'd love to get into the newspapers and dig in on what is making headlines across the country this Tuesday morning. Remember, the 7-day national mourning period continues, and so we still have stories that focus on the late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Now, I'll kick it off with the Daily Nation this morning. Raila shadow looms over Mashujaa Day. Raila shadow looms over Mashujaa Day. Now, the former Prime Minister posthumously awarded the Republic's highest honor, that is the Chief of the Golden Heart. And a day after the burial of Odinga, memories of the veteran opposition leader lingered over the Mashujaa Day celebrations, with President Ruto devoting a major part of his address at Ithokwe Stadium in Kitui to paying glowing tribute to the former Prime Minister who died last week, aged 40. Similar messages dominated speeches in regions where speakers challenged leaders to observe the ideals that the ODM leader stood for, including defending civil liberties, protecting devolution, and upholding the rule of law. And you know, Jeff, this is well timed because if you're going to celebrate Mashujaa Day, which in English is Heroes Day, basically celebrating individuals who fought for the independence of the country, individuals who have contributed immensely to the growth of the country, whether it's in economy, whether it's in human rights defending or defense, or whether it's in other social issues, then this, you know, it would have been very weird if he does not pay tribute to Odinga during the Mashujaa Day celebrations. And his speech largely was honoring this man, talking about how he fought for the country, multi-parties, democracy, fought for, you know, the minorities in the country, defended social injustices that were being meted on people. And so it was a befitting way to honor this man during the Mashujaa Day celebrations.
Yes, and we've always been talking of Raila from 15th of this month when we got the news of his death. Yesterday it came. We can't keep on praising death because in one way or the other, or even in a bigger part of our art, it's so dreadful, and I think we feel so discouraged having lost such a hero, such a leader, and such a courageous one. Because there are some things, or even you may be a sister to a brother, and maybe a smaller brother, and with that smaller brother of yours, when it comes when it's night time, there is a place you can't go without your brother. This is to mean he just keeps on making ways for you where things look like it's hard for me to fit or even to get myself into that place. So Raila is one person, or is one hero you can never forget. When we think of a day like yesterday when we are celebrating heroes and heroines in this country. Look at, he was detained for 6 years. Yes. That's a long time. Back in his mind, he has a family. And what made him to be detained is still fighting for it. So this to mean this guy is not giving up in any situation. And we also read of a story that no matter how he's challenged, no matter how his victories are just turned down, he still moved on and never giving up. So Raila, yesterday, that befitting story or even tribute to Raila and memory to Raila, I think it is what fits him more.
Yeah, and you know, you've mentioned out the years that, you know, he was in detention. And if you read, there's a biography book which he wrote, and if you would read it, and he would paint a picture of you of what he went through, you know, lying on the cold floor 6 years straight, not having access. No, you know, the room is so dark, no sunlight is coming in for 6 years straight, being tortured, missing meals. Sometimes, you know, it's raining and the room is filled with water, still having to sleep on the floor, you know, for 6 years straight, missing his mother's burial, being told 2 months later that, you know, your mother passed away 2 months ago.
And is buried.
Yeah, and has been buried. So really, in modern day age and era, it's a question of, I'd pose this perhaps to every single person that is watching this morning. Would you go through the same for, not your family, but for the country?
For the country.
Would you allow yourself to go through the 6 years fighting for a specific cause and going through that, And so that's a huge sacrifice that he made.
Yeah. And again, I think what Raila has been challenging all through for every government that was put in place is like if at all at the end of the day he was handed something to at least calm him down, it was not easy. He has to fight for it again.
Yeah.
And when you look at him fighting for the rights of this country, he would also, so that he can just have a part of a cake, you also have to fight for the part again. Because remember when President Ruto was put into presidential seat, you remember the first year, the demonstration that were staged by Honorable Raila Odinga by the Azimio. Now you can see this man has been struggling all along. And when you mentioned of being in detention for 6 years in cold waters, there's no light in the room. Actually, what happens in that room is that there's very small all smaller than a pupil. That just brings in light from the outside. And again, you ask about if a young person can sacrifice for all this. Think of, or even let's ask ourselves of the suicidal thoughts that maybe could come in when you are detained for such a long time and you're very young, you have dreams that are very valid. And for Raila, I think his brother described him as a genius person.
And so Raila's shadow looms large over the Mashujaa feast. That's the headline this morning that speaks of the president and the address that he made, just celebrating the spirit that Odinga had in himself. And, you know, as we were talking a bit earlier on, you know, giving flowers to a man when he's still alive. And I hope that in such national celebrations, we can point out leaders who have contributed immensely to the country and they're still alive. And let's not wait when they are gone is when we really now reflect and think of how brilliant they were, how good they were, how they had such a fighting spirit. We still have people who are alive and they were very much integral to fighting for this country. Talk about James Orengo, talk about Martha Karua, talk about Professor Anyang' Nyong'o. These are people we need to celebrate more when they're still alive. And so that is the headline this morning, which also speaks of, you know, Kenya politics without Baba. And throughout his lengthy political career, Raila Odinga, who died last week, was revered and vilified. For more than 3 decades, his name defined the country's politics, evoking devotion or disdain in equal measure. This divisiveness once prompted the then Vice President Kijana Wamalwa to remark that Kenya lived under the twin forces of Raila mania and Raila phobia. And so that is perhaps one of the best descriptions you can give to this fallen hero, that there are those who are on this side and really supported him, and there are those on this side who really revered and feared and you know, hoped that they could vote anybody else but him. And so Kenya politics without Baba, that is perhaps the new normal. And I know some would feel that it's a bit too early to start talking about the political scene and that we should allow him to mourn. But at the same time, we need to understand that Kenya is a political country. We are in politics 24/7. And it's one of the things that Ruto also mentioned in his first address last week. And he said, you know, there are analysts who question that what will Ruto now do now that Raila is gone. So already there's that sort of political tone to it. Look at his burial on Sunday. Pure politics, as much as, you know, they were praising him. And so it's a question of now, from today being the 21st, actually from yesterday now, what changes for the ODM party, for President Ruto, for broad-based government, and for years to come.
And after Raila's death, Dr. Oburu Odinga, his elder brother, was unveiled, or even is the interim party leader. And yesterday I read something, I think it's also political. They were saying when it comes to Gen Z's voting, and maybe for ODM, and they have the party leader being Oburu Odinga, I think they feel frightened in a way. So it's like they were mentioning that they just need a younger party leader, which sometimes yes, we wonder who that is. And I think there's someone, Robert Alai, was saying that in a very short time, Sifuna won't be the Secretary General of ODM party, which we sing wrangles in actually less than 2 days after Raila is laid to rest. And again, I also saw that someone was saying that ODM was not Raila's party. So we're still moving on to know whose party was. But when it comes to the issue of top leadership of the party, because that is where we need to have the direction, I think this party needs someone who is old enough, will make sure that they have a direction. Because if maybe we mention someone young like Kasmuel Makure, yes, given that mantle, I think it would be light for him to carry such a thing, because Babu Wino is behind it, Sifuna is behind it, Ali is behind it, and a lot of political orphans, as we've mentioned, they are still behind the party. So I think if they have to put someone in the top leadership of the party, I think they need to choose someone very strong politically, and maybe someone, because they are talking of politics without Raila, Kenya's politics without Raila. So I think we need to have a figure that resembles, in character, resembles Raila.
Yeah, and you know, for me, from where I sit, this is a make or break moment, or it will be a make or break years in the political scene. You know, we've had leaders who have built their career largely perhaps by throwing stones or hurling stones to Odinga, and they make a name for themselves. You also have leaders who have been mentored by Odinga. You've had leaders who have got to certain political positions because of Raila Odinga. And so they need to sit and recalibrate themselves and now find their own identity at this point. Are you a leader who goes with the wind and sways with the wind? When, you know, when the party says go left, you go left. When it says go right, go right. Or do you become a leader who's got their own vocal stance and you believe in it? For the ODM party, you know, if you look at that decision to appoint interim party leader Oburu Oginga, it's also a question on the DNA of the party. How deep does it run, and who does it run deep in? And the number of leaders you're able to pinpoint, Anyang' Nyong'o, James Orengo, Oburu Oginga himself, Gladys Wanga, I talk about Millie Odhiambo, Edwin Sifuna, Babu Wino. These are people who want members of a different political party before joining ODM. And these are leaders as well, you know, from the critical Luo Nyanza region, and perhaps that's also an aspect. Odinga was the regional kingpin. We cannot argue about that. And so it's a question of whoever becomes ODM party, can they become this region's kingpin? You know? And if that's the way to go, then what happens to leaders who come perhaps from the Kisii, Simbarati, or from Mombasa, Ali Hassan Joho? And so these are some of the critical elements within this particular political sphere. But at the same time, perhaps this was bound to happen so that as a nation we're able to identify other leaders that can crop up. In leadership, there is no vacuum. Once a leader leaves, somebody else will definitely come up and fit in. And so this is also an opportunity for whoever is interested in the national political scene to be able to prove that they can get to that particular level, not fill in Odinga's shoes. They could be too large, but sort of have their own shoes, be their own leader, because in politics there is no vacuum, and in leadership there is no vacuum. So definitely we are going to have an ODM party leader. Definitely we are going to have an opposition leader. Definitely we are going to have a regional kingpin for the Luo Nyanza.
Yes, that's very true. And someone was saying from Baba to Babu. We're waiting to see whether this comes into truth. And again, the issues of ODM, President William Ruto on Sunday and again yesterday, he mentioned about working. There's no place for opposition. And my question has always been, how does a government work without opposition? Who will be the oversight? Who will correct the government? Who will make sure that the government works in line with what is made for the country? Because when Raila died on 15th, there are some bills that President Ruto signed into law, and they lacked public participation. So what does Kenya look like politically without opposition? And in one way or the other, we're looking at ODM leading in 2027. That's just an opinion. Then again, we're looking at UDA being damned or even being buried. So we're still wondering if President William Ruto will accommodate or even absorb all these other leaders we mentioned, from the likes of Orengo, from the likes of Millie Odhiambo, Wanga, so outspoken, and Babu the same.
Yeah, and I'd love to make reference as well to Kijana Wamalwa, the late vice president. When he died, you know, he was at the helm of Ford Kenya. And, you know, there were a lot of questions back then on will Ford Kenya survive? 20 years later, has Ford Kenya survived? By name, yes, but how many members of parliament are, have been elected through Ford Kenya? Is it a party that would very much challenge the presidency? Is it a party that would be at the forefront of the opposition? And also, Kijana Wamalu was the Luya kingpin, the Mulembe Nation kingpin, but leaving, and so other leaders, Mudavadi cropped up, Moses Wetangula came, Eugene Wamalwa came, and at this point you're having somebody like George Natembeya trying to cement themselves. And so eventually there has to be that transition, and it's a question on, are the people willing to allow leaders come up? Because it's one thing, and you cannot compare. You don't expect somebody to behave like Odinga, to be like Odinga. People will be different, will come up with their own sort of political ideologies that they love to share with the people. And so it's also for Kenyans to allow that transition and to allow and to, give room in their minds and in their hearts that there's going to be a transition and there are going to be new leaders.
Yes, so we're getting into the Kenya's bold newspaper, and this is the Standard, and it's all talking about Raila all through. And Raila is honored in death because we've mentioned of the impacts that Raila has left for over 40 decades in political arena or in political spaces. He's changed a lot of things. He's fought for a lot of things for this country. And later, yesterday, actually, Cynthia, I would think that before yourself, if you die and you have to be celebrated as a hero, you have to take some like a year. So that now, because I'm trying to look at the picture where Raila was buried on Sunday, 19th. Then yesterday on 20th, he is awarded, he is recognized. Actually, he is shadowing the Mashujaa celebration yesterday at Ithokwe Stadium in Kitui County. So for such a person, I think, as we're still saying, is a person that you can never forget, because you just buried today and tomorrow you're just celebrated everywhere. And there's something that we've not mentioned when during his burial celebration, so ceremony on 19th Sunday. Actually, Raila was celebrated internationally. I don't think whether you watched people from India, people from UK, everywhere, actually, like every part of UK, Africa, US, South Africa, it was celebrated. It's like, now, if you just go and meet these people accidentally, you will think it's like the burial is taking place at that area. So the Standard is talking of someone who is honored in death, and this is Raila. And it is saying that Baba's spirit lives on. The weight of Raila Odinga's name hung heavy on President William Ruto's heart and tongue as he addressed the nation from Kitui during Mashujaa Day celebrations. More than 20 times he invoked the late opposition leader's name, praising his courage and sacrifice before posthumously conferring on Kenya's highest honor, that of the Order of the Golden Heart. Across the counties, governors joined in celebrating a man whose death carries striking irony. Once Kenya's most persecuted politician, Raila Odinga, is now enshrined among its greatest heroes. And so before I need to read some tributes here, then we move on. And as we come back, I saw something yesterday that Ruto himself saying that he wanted to support Raila for presidential bid 2027. After this, we see how that shapes. Now, Raila stood firm in the fight for the birth of new constitution and the establishment of devolved governments that have brought services closer to marginalized people. And this is from Fatuma Achani, and this is Kwale governor. Then from Julius Malombe, Kitui governor. In a special way, I applaud the departed former PM Raila Odinga as an outstanding and awesome Shujaa whom Kenyans are celebrating for championing multi-party democracy, constitutional reforms, defending devolution, justice and rule of law. Kenneth Lusaka, Bungoma governor. He may not have become president, but his legacy is presidential. We praise him as a man who gave his life to the cause of freedom, equality, and inclusion. He gave life to devolution and fought for a constitution that protects our rights and diversity. Oscar Sudi, Kapsaret MP. Raila was a true man of God, known for reaching out to his political enemies for the sake of the people. I was impressed by the peace shown by the people of Kisumu. Then lastly, from Simon Kachapin, West Pokot Governor, a true patriot and the founding father of Kenya's devolution system, his fight for democracy and inclusive governance has transformed grassroots lives. And Cindy, I'm trying to picture this. You did and you celebrated, and this is one hero. This is a legend, and it's also a myth. Departed, retired Prime Minister Raila Odinga. What do you think? It's like yesterday was the topic of the celebrations, because think of Raila trying to invoke him for 20 times. And actually, that is not what took Raila to the same place, because I saw some place mentioning that we have, and you also mentioned the same, mentioning of the living heroes that need to be celebrated as they are alive. And Raila was celebrated when dead, just buried on Sunday. What do you think make of such a king?
I mean, if you look at, you know, there's this famous Malema speech that he made when Winnie Mandela died in 2018. And it's a speech that has been cross-referenced across the world, to which, you know, he boldly addressed the crowd and said, you know, there are hypocrites here who tortured you, who, you know, were always against you, and they're here and they're crying the loudest. And so for me, if I look back to the burial ceremony, and even some of the leaders who took to the podium, some who sent out their condolence message, it was the same case. They threw stones, the strongest, they hurled insults, the loudest, to Odinga when he was alive, and yet they were perhaps one of the people as well that were mourning the loudest. And so, you know, that sort of political hypocrisy really needs to stop. And we understand the nature of politics, that sometimes you need to go hard on your opponent to make a point, you know, to get the crowd roaring and laughing and clapping and jeering. But at the same time, you know, we are all humans. And as much as we are competitors in the political world, we are also humans. And that's something that people need to also adapt from Odinga. The fact that he would compete with Uhuru Kenyatta, begin actually with Mwai Kibaki, and then shake hands with Mwai Kibaki, compete against Uhuru Kenyatta, and then shake hands, compete against William Ruto, and then shake hands. How many leaders do we have in the nation today that can do the same? Compete against so and so, very stiff competition, and then come shake hands and sort of let, you know, bygones be bygones. And so, I mean, it is good that he was honored, yes, but he's not here to really see what this honor means. He's not here to accept this particular honor, you know. And so we still have leaders that have also contributed to the country's gains and democracy. And I'd love that as a nation, the president leads at the forefront and honors them when they're still here.
Yes, and one thing I would still going on with the issue of Mashujaa Day yesterday and Raila's celebrations. We buried a hero on Sunday and crowned hypocrites on Monday.
I mean, same point. Come on.
Yeah, actually the same. So I think you need to, like, what Raila has been doing for over 40 years is something that we've been keeping track of. So it's very easy to say or even decide that this is Mashujaa Day, and we have a list of who will be celebrating before they die, and this is so and so and so. I think, suppose this was done last year's Mashujaa celebrations for Raila, I think it could have could have a bigger impact for this country, and for him to, it could also have encouraged him in a way that he grows in what he is doing. Because I think at his death, even if he's departed, I think there is something that we have to learn from him. We have to copy from him also. So I think as trying to crown or even
Yeah, and to add on that as well, we had one of the articles, I believe was last week, that talked about some of the leaders that were going to be, that received the state honors, and they had corruption cases in court, had murder cases in court, and yes, they were not found guilty, but sort of your image is ruined, the perception changes. Odinga never had any corruption-related cases, never had any murder cases. He was never actually charged in court, you know. And so that's, you know, sets the difference very, you know, very visible, that you're celebrating one man who never had his name tarnished, never had scandals related to him, and then you want to honor people that have scandals, people who have, you know, arguably or allegedly killed people, people who have allegedly been involved in corruption cases. It goes really far away from what the conferment is all about.
And such a hero is celebrated at death. So dangerous.
All right. So, you know, with Odinga, the story will continue to evolve. We'll continue to have, you know, more conversations around this in the subsequent days. But I'd love to bring your attention back to, you know, a different issue as well in the country, and that is on the senior schools, because we are having a transition. You know, we have CBC 2663 formula, and so we are having kids who are transitioning from grade 9 to grade 10 in senior schools. Basically, what should have been a Form 1 now going to next year, that's what we are having. Parents will have learners going to grade 10, 11, 12. These are basically senior schools. What is previously high schools. And important information is from the Ministry of Education, who are set to revise school fees for these learners. Now, I know there's still so much confusion around CBC and CBE, and parents are basically trying to keep up. And so we have different categories of schools, which have been categorized into C1, C2, C3, C4. The reason I want you to note this is because initially you had mastered, we have national schools, you have extra county schools, you have county schools, and you've got the sub-county schools. So that is now changing. So the national schools now become C1. The extra county schools become C2. The county become C3 and the sub-county becomes C4. So your learner is likely to go to any of these schools, also depending on what courses they go and choose. So we've got the STEM courses, the social sciences, the arts and sports, which can be found in C1. C2, C3, C4, depending on the availability of materials and the capacity. And so the government basically is saying they're going to revise school fees ahead of this 2026 senior transition, with a commitment to unveil a revised and affordable fee structure based on the chosen learning path. So if your child goes to C1, which has got STEM, social sciences and art, school fees is going to be different as to those who may go to C4, which are the former sub-county schools. So I know there's still a lot of we're all just trying to adjust to this particular new, I wouldn't even call it new anymore. It's been there for quite a while, but the CBC curriculum. And so as a parent, prepare yourself that come next year, your child who is going to grade 10 will be going to either of these schools.
Yes, and I think Cynthia, there's a system that is, if well-groomed, I think it is becoming so beneficial to learners. Because it gives, maybe you're talented in one or in one part or even in one thing, and your energies fall for that. I think it will be good for you because it will assist you in growing and make sure that you realize yourself early enough.
I'd love to pick out from Uganda's education system. And with Uganda, you know, it's more or less similar to ours. It's a 2663 formula, and they have, you know, the primary schools, then they have senior 1 to senior 6, and then they have university or college 3 years. And essentially this helps you build on something specific. And the reason I love this system is because we have learners who are not the best in their class, but they are best in their skills. They are good in baking, they are good in sports, they are good in drawing, they are good in, you know, social sciences, they are good in mathematics. And it's brilliant that a learner can decide and can, you know, through guidance, speak on something, and they do that for the rest of their careers. And it gets to build professionals. When we talk about people who can bake in the next 10 years, because this is the class I'm talking about, we'll have brilliant artists. If we can talk about people that draw, people that are good in music, we'll have the best of the best. Na sio tukubahatisha like with the 844. When you're done with Form 4 is when you're starting to figure out what can I do. And so Yeah, this is a brilliant system, as you've said.
Yeah, it's too dangerous and very risky for you to start planning or even thinking of what you may decide to do when you actually you've just finished Form 4.
Yeah.
It's too late. But starting early enough by this provision that we were given by the Ministry of Education, I think it's a bright opinion and idea. And I think if we embrace it and the government assists to make sure that we access all materials that we need to access, I think it will boost us and we shall have a better and a brilliant country.
Indeed.
Yes.
All right, so it is top of the hour, 3 minutes past 8 a.m. We'd love to wrap it up at this point this morning. I hope you're duly informed on what is making headlines in the country this morning. Keep talking to us across our feedback lines. Tell us, what you remember Baba for. Also, with some of the angles that we've talked about, Kenya's politics, you can tell us what your views are, what changes, how much is it going to change, and do you think the country's political scene is going to survive without Odinga for the next couple of years? So we'd love to wrap it up this morning. And I appreciate Kennedy Jumba Sirigwa for watching, says good morning, as well as Dana Mwanya, who says good morning. Jeff and Cynthia watching live from my workplace. Thank you very much. We appreciate.
Thank you. And Cynthia's just put it, how will political scenes or arenas look like after this? What do we put to stand at the position where Raila stood? Who will copy Raila? Who will do what Raila did? Who will be as courageous as Raila? Even after being challenged, he still stood up and never gave up on any issue. We're here to make sure that you're following up every bulletin, every program that we have. Thank you for watching Morning Live, and this is EBN TV. Our SMS line is 23059. After this is Your Faith Today with Reverend Felix Kavoy, and Morning Live team exits.